I leaned back in my desk chair, stared at the little black eye of my webcam, and thought, this is either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever done. I'm a 51-year-old man who still doesn't know how to start a YouTube video without feeling like I'm crashing a party meant for younger, cooler people. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I told the truth. Hey, I said, watching my own face in the preview window. The lines around my eyes looked deeper under the warm lamp of my home office. My name is Chris. I'm 51. I'm married to a 44-year-old woman named Emma. Our marriage is not great. I think she might be cheating on me. And, I'm secretly a crossdresser, and the idea of her cheating actually turns me on. I gave the camera a half wince, half smile. So, yeah, that's what we're talking about today. If you met me in real life, you'd see a pretty standard middle-aged guy. Receding hairline, greying at the temples, glasses I probably should have replaced 3 prescriptions ago. I work a boring office job. I know my way around Excel. I can grill a decent steak. Nothing about me screams drama or secret double life, but for as long as I can remember, there's been this other version of me, folded up inside like a hidden layer in a shirt, one that feels softer, more dangerous, and more honest than anything I've ever shown my wife Emma, and I have been married for almost 15 years. We used to be good together, not perfect, not movie-level passionate, but we had this rhythm. Morning coffee together, sarcastic texts during the workday, TV on the couch at night, with her feet in my lap. Somewhere along the line, life, stress, 1,000 small arguments we never really resolved, that rhythm broke. Lately, it feels like we're roommates who share bills and a last name. The thing about a failing marriage is it doesn't break all at once. It frays, and if you're paying attention, you can feel every thread as it snaps. I started noticing the little things first. Emma suddenly caring about how she looked when, frankly, she'd spent the last few years in leggings and messy buns and oversized sweaters, which I actually found really cute. But now? She ironed her blouses. She started wearing lipstick on random weekday mornings. There were new dresses hanging in her side of the closet, slinky and elegant, in fabrics that shone when you turned them in the light silks. Satins, stockings I'd never seen her buy before. At first I told myself, she's just taking care of herself. Maybe she wants to feel good, and that might be true. But I've known this woman for 15 years. Suddenly she was standing at the mirror in our bedroom, angling her body this way and that in a cocktail dress I'd never seen, smoothing her hands over her hips and asking, "Do these heels go with this?" She never used to ask me about heels. She never used to own heels, if I'm being honest. There were more late nights at work, more locked phone screens, more text alerts that made her smile to herself before she cleared them away. It didn't take a genius to put the pieces together. Still, I'm a coward, so I didn't ask. I watched, I noticed, I collected evidence I never planned to use. Because here's the messed up part. The more I suspected she was cheating, the more my mind ran toward a fantasy I'd been carrying around for years, long before we stopped touching each other, long before the lipstick and the new dresses and the mysterious smiles I imagined myself in her clothes. It's funny, the things you remember. I was maybe 8 the first time I was left alone near my mum's closet. She was out running errands, my dad was at work, and I opened the door like I was stepping into some forbidden treasure chest. There was this navy blue dress hanging at the front, soft and smooth, and smelling faintly of her perfume. I remember touching it, just touching it, and feeling something electric flicker through me. I tried it on, and it hung wrong on my little boy's body, but the feeling of the fabric against my skin lodged itself somewhere deep. Fast forward a few decades, and that feeling never really left. I learned the words for it later: crossdressing, gender expression, kink, sexuality. But back then, it was just this shameful, intoxicating urge. As an adult, I would sneak small moments, buying a pack of pantyhose under the excuse of, for my wife, slipping into them when Emma was out, wearing them under my jeans and feeling like I had a whole secret world pressed against my skin. I'd try on one of her silky tops when she was staying late at a friend's house, listening to every creak in the hallway like I was committing a crime. She had no idea. As far as Emma knows, I'm just Chris. Quiet, dependable, aging in place. But do you know what it did to me, seeing her new clothes appear? The elegant dresses, the lingerie bags tucked into the back of her dresser drawer, the sheer stockings on their cardboard inserts. I'd watch her slip into a fitted black dress before a work dinner, pair it with glossy heels and a thin gold necklace that glowed against her collarbone. And my brain would split in two. One half of me was the husband thinking, "Who are you getting this dressed up for? Why don't you look at me like that anymore? Why do I feel like a stranger in my own house?" The other half of me was the hidden version, the crossdresser thinking, "God, I want to wear that. I want to feel those stockings on my legs, that silk against my torso. I want to slide into those heels and hear them click on the floor." And then, here's the part that still makes my stomach twist with how wrong and right it feels. I'd imagine kneeling in front of whoever she was dressing up for, still in her outfit, and pleasing him while he smelled like her perfume and sweat, and whatever cologne he wore for her. I fantasized about being her, about being with him. In my head, it was always her most elegant look, the deep emerald dress that hugs her waist, the sheer pantyhose that make her legs glisten, the black lace bra and panties underneath. Except in my fantasy, I'm the one in them, my body awkward but determined, my face made up as best I can manage, my mouth doing what I've imagined doing to a man for years and never once admitted out loud. These are not thoughts you can casually bring up at dinner. For a long time, I thought I was just broken. I didn't have the language to separate gender expression from orientation from fantasy. I just knew that I hadn't been intimate with Emma in years, without thinking about wearing women's clothes and underwear, and having sex with men. Every time we tried, my brain went off script. While she kissed my neck, I imagined lipstick smeared on my own. While I touched her, I pictured myself in lace, in silk, in something clingy and feminine, giving myself to someone whose hands were bigger than mine. You might think that would make me feel guilty about the idea of her cheating, that I'd be jealous or devastated. And look, there is a part of me that mourns what we used to be. There's grief there, absolutely, but there's another part that is frankly turned on. The idea that she has this secret lover, that she's putting on stockings and perfume for someone else, that her body is waking up in ways it hasn't around me in years, it plugs directly into the part of me that lives in silk and shadows. Sometimes I imagine walking into the hotel room instead of her. I imagine her cheating partner, this faceless, well-dressed man in my head, turning in surprise as I enter in her dress, her heels, her pantyhose, my fingers nervously smoothing the skirt. I imagine telling him, "She's not coming tonight, but I am." And then I imagine kneeling. I know how that sounds. I can hear it as I'm saying it. And if you're watching this and judging me, I kinda get it. It's tangled up. Sex, jealousy, gender, humiliation, desire. But it's honest. And, as messed up as it may be, the possibility of Emma actually having someone else out there has made those fantasies sharper, more vivid. Which brings me to the next uncomfortable truth. I don't think our marriage is going to survive much longer. We don't fight exactly. It's more like we've both quietly checked out. Her in her late nights and new clothes. Me in my secret online searches for women's clothes in my size. In the way my eyes linger too long on men in well-tailored suits. In the way the word bisexual or gender fluid makes something inside me sit up and pay attention. Sometimes we stand in the kitchen together, waiting for the kettle to boil, and we have nothing to say. That used to be comfortable silence. Now it's a void. The signs point toward divorce, separate bank accounts she doesn't know I know about, a calendar entry on her phone labelled consultation, with a law firm's name beneath it, the way she flinched when I 2 days ago casually mentioned in 10 years when we're retired, like I'd suggested we move to Mars. Here's the thing though, the part I'm almost ashamed to admit. I'm actually excited, not about the loss, not about the paperwork, the grief, the untangling of a life that's been knotted together for over a decade. That part scares me. I worry about being alone, about starting over at 51, about whether I'll be able to afford rent and my midlife crisis at the same time. But underneath all that, there's this thrum of anticipation I can't ignore. If we get divorced, and I really do think it's when, not if at this point, I'm going to buy myself a new wardrobe, not new jeans and button-downs, a wardrobe of women's clothes and underwear, picked for me, not borrowed from someone else's drawer, dresses that fit my shoulders, skirts that hit my knees just right, pantyhose in shades that make my legs look like something I want to look at, panties that feel like a secret against my skin, silk blouses, soft cardigans, heels that I'll probably wobble in until I get the hang of it. I imagine walking into a boutique one day, cheeks burning, and saying, "Hi, I'm looking for something in my size." Maybe I'll lie and say it's for a girlfriend at first. Maybe I'll tell the truth. Maybe I'll find a place that already knows there are a lot of men like me who need help finding a midi dress that fits a wider rib cage. I imagine hanging those clothes in my own closet, in my own place. No more shoving things back into a drawer at the sound of a garage door. No more hoping Emma doesn't notice that her tights are stretched or that a clasp is slightly bent. Just my wardrobe, my life, my reflection in the mirror, with nothing to hide from the person staring back. And I imagine, very clearly, experimenting with my sexuality in ways I've only ever rehearsed in my head. I don't know exactly where I land on the spectrum. I've spent years telling myself, "You're straight, you just have this thing." But when I'm honest, the idea of being with men, especially while I'm dressed the way I want to be, doesn't feel like just a thing. It feels real solid, a desire that's been patiently waiting its turn while I tried to play the role I thought I was supposed to play. I picture going on my first date with a man who knows from the start that I cross-dress. Maybe we meet for coffee and I show up in jeans and a sweater the first time because I'm terrified. But later, after trust builds, I imagine showing up in that emerald dress I always envied in Emma's closet, except this one is mine. I imagine his eyes lighting up, not with confusion or ridicule, but with appreciation. I imagine his hand on the small of my back as we walk down a busy street, my heels clicking on the pavement, my heart beating so loud it drowns out the traffic. I imagine my first kiss with a man I chose, not a fantasy stand-in for Emma's maybe lover. I imagine the stubble against my face, the weight of his hand on my hip through the thin fabric of a skirt, the way my body might relax into it and think, "Oh, so this is what we were trying to tell ourselves all those years." That thought scares me. It also thrills me. Right now, I'm in the in-between. I'm still married, technically. I still sleep in the same bed as Emma, though most nights we face opposite walls. I still watch her apply lipstick in the mirror and wonder if she's doing it for someone else. Wonder if he knows that her husband is standing just outside the doorway, imagining himself in her place. I haven't confronted her. Part of me thinks I should, that it's the honest thing to do. Another part of me thinks we're both just waiting for the moment when one of us says, "I think this is over," and the other nods in exhausted agreement. Maybe she'll leave me for whoever she's dressing up for. Maybe we'll do it the polite way, with mediation and asset division and awkward hugs goodbye. When that day comes, I don't know exactly who I'll be, but I know I won't go back to being just the version of Chris everyone else knows. I can't. Not after admitting this much, not after letting myself feel the excitement under the fear. So that's why I'm here, talking to a camera in my dim office, with a cup of lukewarm tea on my desk and my heart beating out of sync. I take a breath and look into the lens. If you're still watching, I say, maybe you recognize some part of yourself in this. Maybe you suspect your partner is cheating. Maybe your marriage is falling apart. Maybe you're secretly a crossdresser, or you fantasize about things that feel wrong, but also incredibly right. Maybe you're just not the person everyone thinks you are, and you don't know what to do with that. I rub a hand over my face, feeling the roughness of my unshaven jaw. I don't have a moral to this story yet. I'm not on the other side telling you how it all worked out. What I do know is, the more I pretend this part of me doesn't exist, the more miserable I become. The more I let myself imagine buying that wardrobe, exploring sex with men, living in a body that moves through the world in clothes that feel like me, the more I feel alive. I think about Emma, about her heels and perfume, and the man who might be waiting for her somewhere. Weirdly, I feel grateful to him. This hypothetical stranger, if he exists, if he's real, he might be the catalyst that finally blows up the lie we've both been living. And yeah, I add, because if I'm putting this out there, I might as well be fully honest. The idea of her cheating on me? It does something to me. I fantasize about putting on her most elegant outfit, pantyhose and panties, and silk and heels, and kneeling in front of her partner, taking her place. It's not healthy, maybe. It's not simple, but it's mine. It's how my brain has been wired all this time, and shaming myself for it hasn't made it go away. I tilt my head, considering the man on the screen, me, but more exposed than I've ever been. I don't know what the future looks like, I say quietly, but I can tell you this much. I'm done pretending that the only version of me that's allowed is the one in slacks and sensible shoes. If this marriage ends, and it probably will, I'm going to build a life where my wardrobe, my sexuality, and my reflection in the mirror all finally match the person I've always been inside. I reach for the mouse, hovering over the stop button, then add one last thing. If you're out there hiding too, I say, you're not the only one, and you're not wrong for wanting what you want. Just try to be kind to yourself while you figure it out. I'm trying to. Then I click stop, and the room is suddenly very quiet. Just me and my secrets, and the faint rustle of possibility, like silk shifting on a hanger behind a closed closet door.